Okay, let's finish reading Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. We're up to chapter 7. Oh, you okay? You hit your head. Okay. Chapter 7. At the giant vegetable competition, there was a stampede to the competition stand. Victor slapped his head. He had to stop this mayhem. He fired a shot into the air. "Quiet, quiet!" he shouted. The mob stopped in their tracks. "Yes, the beast is here somewhere, but listen carefully. I've only got 2, he rolled his eyes, remembering the shot he just fired. I mean, 1 golden bullet left, so let me handle this. Your prize vegetables are the perfect bait, and I will draw the creature like a magnet. I need each and every one of you to keep perfectly still. Don't flinch. Don't even move a muscle." All eyes were on Victor. The tension was too much. Suddenly, Mrs. Mulch broke cover and made a run for it. "Mrs. Mulch, no!" cried Lady Tottington. "It's not getting me, baby!" Mrs. Mulch shouted tearfully, frantically pushing her precious pumpkin away in its pram. The crowd shouted in chorus, come back, Mrs. Mulch!" Almost immediately the ground started to shake. The beast was there, but under the ground. "Right on cue," beamed Victor. "No!" shouted Mrs. Mulch as he quickly realised Mr. Mulch as he quickly realised the trail of the underground beast was gaining on his wife. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mulch had changed her mind and turned around. Now she was speeding back towards the competition stand. Everyone looked on in horror, and all except Mr. Mulch changed their tune and shouted, go away, Mrs. Mulch!" But the beast had overtaken her and was heading straight at the vegetable stand, hungry for its dinner. Shoot it, your lordship, please!" cried a voice in the crowd. Victor smiled evilly. "Come to Victor," he muttered under his breath. 1 bullet left. He had to make it count. But when the mound drew closer, there was a sudden flash of green as something swept into the path of the beast, making it suddenly veer off course. "Curses!" spat Victor. The crowd was frantic. People tried to grab Victor's gun, which went off, and the last golden bullet ricocheted harmlessly off the speeding anti-pesto van. It was Gromit who had come to the beast's rescue. Astride his prize marrow like a rodeo rider, pulled along behind the anti-pesto van driven by Hutch. They had used the delicious-smelling vegetable to lure Wallace the were-rabbit away from the competition stand just in time. "That's champion!" Hutch called from the wheel of the van as they successfully enticed the beast further away from the competition stand. "Hurrah for anti-pesto!" called Lady Tottington. "I need more gold bullets!" cried Victor, frantically scanning around him. Then he caught sight of 3 things that would make the ultimate weapon: the Golden Carrot Award shining on its stand, a box of fireworks, and an old blunderbuss on an antique stall. Pouring gunpowder from the fireworks into the blunderbuss, Victor grabbed the golden carrot. "No, Victor, what are you doing?" squealed Lady Tottington. "I need it, my sweet. Emergency," shouted Victor. "But it's my Golden Carrot Award," wailed Lady Tottington, trying to wrestle it away from Victor's clutches. It was her pride and joy. "The golden carrot belongs in the show," insisted Lady Tottington. "No, the golden carrot belongs in the were-rabbit," yelled Victor. "Let go." "No, Victor, stop it, stop it." Her sobs of distress resounded across the fairground and reached the ears of the were-rabbit. It immediately stopped in its tracks and looked to where Victor was grappling with Lady Tottington. A Wallace-like look of rage came over the beast. It forgot about chasing after Gromit and the marrow and made off towards the stand to help Lady Tottington. The garden supplies stall was suddenly mobbed as the crowd armed themselves with pitchforks, shovels and rakes. Mrs. Mulch grabbed herself a hedge trimmer. It was payback time. Having taken his eye off his prey for a second to load the golden carrot into the blunderbuss, Victor looked up to see the van veering out of control and finally crashing into the cheese tent. There was no sign of the beast. "Where's the damn thing gone?" Victor said crossly. There was a gentle tap on his shoulder. He turned around slowly to see the beast towering over him. Furious at Victor's treatment of Lady Tottington, the were-rabbit bopped him on the head, wrecked his wig and threw him into the candy floss maker. Then it tenderly picked up Lady Tottington to carry her away to safety. But the crowd was turning ugly, even uglier than it had been to begin with. The people had the were-rabbit cornered in seconds. There was only one way it could escape, and that was up. Still clutching Lady Tottington, the were-rabbit leaped up and scaled the wall of Tottington Hall. "Help! Help!" shrieked Lady Tottington. "Somebody help me!" In the cheese tent, Gromit picked himself up from the pieces that remained of his precious marrow. But he had no time to be upset. He looked out of the tent towards all of the commotion. And there was Victor, his bald head shining as he scrambled up a drain pipe in pursuit of the beast, still clutching the blunderbuss with its lethal bullet inside. Gromit knew he must act. He set off for the hall, but his path was immediately blocked by Philip, growling menacingly. Over Philip's shoulder, he could see the drain pipe give way under Victor's weight. He bellowed as the pipe swung down, dropping him headfirst into the candy floss machine. It was just enough of a distraction for Gromit to give Philip the slip, but he knew Philip was a hunting dog and would soon be on his trail. Up in the hall's rooftop conservatory, a terrified Campanula Tottington said, "Put me down, you whatever you are." The beast set Lady Tottington down gently. "What are you staring at with those beastly eyes?" she cried. But hysteria soon waned as she looked at the were-rabbit's face more closely. It was looking sorrowful, almost apologetic. "What are you trying to tell me?" she asked softly. The were-rabbit gave her a little Wallace wave. "Wallace?" she said, slowly realizing just who this was in front of her. Dodging behind a tent, Gromit had spotted a sign. "Reach for the skies!" It was a ride with the battery-powered aeroplanes, and it gave him an idea. He stuffed a whole stack of coins into one of the little planes, and it powered off in pursuit of Victor. But before long, Philip was in another of the planes, chasing Gromit hard towards the helter-skelter ride. Now Gromit could see that the ride's full title was Reach for the Skies, the Ultimate Dogfight. In the conservatory, Lady Tottington stroked the big furry beast. "Oh, Wallace, whatever have you done to yourself?" The tenderness had crept back into her voice. "Well, don't worry, I'll protect you. You can stay here at Tottington Hall. There's plenty of room in the east wing." At that moment, the lift to the conservatory pinged. "Get your hairy mitts off my future wife, you big brute!" It was Victor, his wig replaced by a swirl of pink candy floss, and the blunderbuss pointing directly at Wallace. "No, Victor, you mustn't shoot. It's an extremely dangerous animal, my love. Now stand aside," commanded Victor. "You commissioned me to rid you of Pesto, and that's just what I intend to do." "Pesto? You mean," Lady Tottington realization dawning. Pest, mumbled Victor. "Victor, you knew it was Wallace all along." Suddenly she could see through all the fake charm and exaggerated affection. "All right, so what if it is that blithering idiot? No one will ever believe you, and a hunter always gets his prey." Victor raised the blunderbuss, and outside, as Gromit drove the little plane faster and faster up the helter-skelter, he could see the silhouette of Victor raising his gun. He must hurry. But Campanula Tottington was no pushover. "To think I might have married you! You're the only monster around here," she shrilled. Grabbing some pansy spray, she squirted it into Victor's eyes. "Run, rabbit, run!" she cried to the Wallace beast as Victor blubbed like a toddler. The beast crashed out through the glass and made off over the roof. Philip was right behind Gromit as they reached the top of the helter-skelter, and both planes were launched into the air. They soared high above the heads of the crowd before landing safely on a wide ledge on the side of Tottington Hall. The ensuing battle became a real and vicious dogfight. In the conservatory, Victor was furious. He picked up a two-pronged pitchfork and launched it at Lady Tottington, pinning her hair to the wall. "I rather like your hair pinned back," said Victor with a smirk. Then he turned to see the beast disappearing over the rooftops. He leaped after it, his hunter's instincts at full pitch. "But you can hop, but you can't hide, Pesto." But now Gromit had Victor in his sights. He drove his little plane directly at Victor from behind. Just as he was about to buffet the pink-headed toff from the rooftops, Philip Philip caught up and rammed Gromit's plane. Gromit veered wildly off course and just missed Victor, who staggered right into the path of Philip's plane. It butted him right in the behind, sending him somersaulting through the air. Victor was lucky enough to be hooked by his belt on the arrow of a weather vane. Such was the strain on the belt that a good portion of Victor's lily-white bottom was revealed, high above the crowd. The vicar, far below, wild-eyed and raving, pointed up and shouted, "Beware the moon!" With increasing speed, Philip chased Gromit's plane along the length of the ledge, getting closer and closer until he managed to ram Gromit again. Gromit put on a spurt and led the chase up to a higher ledge. Victor had wriggled himself free from the weather vane, and now he was really mad. He could see the beast scrabbling about at the edge of the roof. There was nowhere for it to go. Now Philip had caught up with Gromit again, his propeller chewing into the back of Gromit's plane. Gromit rounded a corner at high speed and looked back. Philip was no longer behind him. Suddenly, Philip appeared in front of Gromit and headed straight for him. A horrible collision that was inevitable, but Gromit held his nerve. At the last second, it was Philip's plane that swerved off course to avoid the crash and went spiralling down towards the ground. One down, now for the real villain. Gromit looked up to see Victor approaching the beast. He was very close now. Gromit steered his plane towards Victor, but as he closed in, Gromit suddenly realised he wasn't alone in his little plane. From nowhere, Philip had popped up and grabbed Gromit from behind. They started to fight, and Philip wrenched an axe from a coat of arms. Just when it looked like the end for Gromit, he found the lever in the plane for the bomb doors and yanked it. The doors opened and Philip fell through, plummeting down onto the bouncy castle, which crumpled and hissed as Philip's teeth punctured it. Still flying high, Gromit could see the terrified were-rabbit cornered against a turret. There was no escape, and Victor was closing in on him. Victor had all the time in the world to aim his shot, and there was no way he was going to miss. "Now finish the job," he said. "Eat carrot, bunny boy." As Victor fired the golden carrot from the blunderbuss, Gromit grabbed hold of a TV aerial and swung the plane around. It was a moment of precise timing. The plane took the full force of the golden bullet right in its side. Wallace was saved. There were cheers from a little crowd of bunnies who had watched the whole thing from the edge of the fair. Victor was furious and immediately flew into a toddler tantrum. "Oh, potty poos!" he yelled and stamped his feet with frustration. Gromit couldn't hold onto the TV aerial any longer. He let go and his plane fell from the sky. Wallace, within the were-rabbit, saw what was happening and heroically dived out to grab hold of Gromit. They plunged from the roof together, falling down through the night and ripping right through the roof of the cheese tent, flattening the cheese stalls. High on the roof, Victor changed his tune. "Ha! No one beats Victor Quatermain," he bellowed. "Is that so?" said a voice behind him. It was Lady Tottington. She whacked him as hard on the head as she could with her prize, golden carrot. "By the way," she said, "the marriage is off." Victor teetered and fell, also landing in the cheese tent. Gromit was the first to come round. He could hear the mob outside the tent. "The beast is in there. Let's get him." "Stand aside," bellowed Mrs. Mulch with her hedge cutter. "I'm going in." With Wallace still unconscious under the cheese stall, Gromit had to do something, and fast. He quickly zipped a dazed and groggy Victor into the lady rabbit suit and kicked him out of the tent. Victor was the perfect were-rabbit decoy. Mrs. Mulch stopped in her tracks. Towering above her was the hugest rabbit she'd ever seen. Philip, trained to hunt and not ask too many questions, sank his teeth into his master's giant furry bottom. "Ah!" Victor shrieked. "It's the beast! See how it rages! Hear how he roars! After it!" yelled the crowd. But everyone chased Victor in his bunny suit right out of the fair and into the woods. Lady Tottington rushed to the cheese tent and watched the crowd disappear into the distance. "Let's see how he likes being hunted," she said, looking very satisfied. She turned back to see a distraught Gromit keeping vigil over his master, who had not moved since the fall. Little rabbit faces peered in under the tent flaps, shedding little rabbit tears. "Oh, Gromit, only a miracle could save him now," Lady Tottington said, wiping her eyes. Gromit's eyes filled with tears and he put his head on his master's furry body. He loved Wallace, bunny ears or no bunny ears. A dog without his master was like the night without a day, a bird without a song, a Wallace without cheese. Of course, cheese! It was the thing that always woke Wallace up from a deep sleep. Hutch had been sneakily filling a plate with the most stinky cheese he could find, ready for a huge cheese feast. Gromit grabbed his plate and wafted it under Wallace's nose. The movement was barely noticeable at first, but Wallace's nose was definitely twitching. He was alive and he was becoming human again. Cheese, where am I? Realising he wasn't in cheese heaven, Wallace slowly took everything in. Gromit, well done, old pal, you clever pooch, you did it. Wallace got up and danced around, giving Gromit a massive, excitable hug. Wallace, you're all... Oh! Lady Tottington raised her eyebrows and blushed. Wallace looked down. He realised he was completely naked and hastily covered his modesty. Lady Tottington tittered mischievously, and then she picked up the battered golden carrot and presented it to Gromit, saying, I think you deserve this, Gromit, for a very brave and splendid marrow. Gromit was very happy, and Wallace beamed. Every dog has his day, eh, lad? And thanks to Wallace, said Lady Tottington, smiling, you saved me from a terrible marriage. She gave a little sigh. Still, it is going to be rather lonely at Tottington Hall now, unless... She shuffled her feet and looked rather embarrassed. Wallace, I have a little proposal. Chapter 8. The sun shone brightly on Tottington Hall as Wallace and Lady Tottington appeared at the front door of the magnificent hall. Oh, Wallace, I'm so thrilled you agreed to this, said Lady Tottington. My pleasure, replied Wallace. Shall we get on with it then? With a nod, Lady Tottington reached up and pulled out a long cord. A curtain slowly opened to reveal a shiny brass plaque. The wording on the sign said, Tottington Bunny Sanctuary. Fluffy creatures welcome. I declare this bunny sanctuary open, said Lady Tottington, as Gromit took a photo and a cage of bunnies in the anti-pesto van broke into applause. In a few minutes, Wallace and Gromit had set up the bun vac and hundreds of happy bunnies were blown back into the ground. It's a dream come true, Wallace. My home, a safe haven for all things fluffy, sighed Lady Tottington. And a solution to all our storage problems, said Wallace, watching the bunnies popping out of the ground all around Tottington Hall. I do hope you'll come to visit often sometimes, said Lady Tottington. Wallace smiled. Oh, there'll always be a part of me here. There'll always be part of me here. At Tottington Hall, replied Wallace. Gromit pulled a lever and switched the bun vac to full power. Really? Asked Lady Tottington. Oh, yes, said Wallace, and with a huge pop, Hutch burst out of the bun vac, stuck in pose in mid-air and bounced off across the lawn.